So obviously, this is the beginning of the school year here in the state of Alaska. So today it's a little special, especially here in Iditarod. So this morning I joined Dr. Ben Carson on a tour of Iditarod Elementary. And I really don't have a lot of time to outline Dr. Carson's background, his resume, but it's incredible. If any of you heard the story that he just told about working on a young lady who was having seizures, and there was almost no hope that they could figure out what was going on with the various hospitals all over the East Coast, some of the best hospitals in the world. And finally, it was suggested that they go down to Johns Hopkins, where Dr. Carson was working and practicing medicine. And long story short, he was able to perform surgery on that individual in which they had to take out half of the young lady's brain, the left side. And not knowing what the results would be, they waited for some time, but eventually, after several weeks of being in a coma, she emerged from the coma. First thing she did was reference her father, and the recovery began. But it's really how he got to that point and why he's here today. So I don't know if many of you know, but he grew up in a situation that these days we would call disadvantaged, quote. A single parent home in Detroit with his mother. But he didn't let these circumstances determine his destiny. And I think that's the key, and he'll talk about this in a moment. Because of his hard work, not because of certain governmental programs, he went on to become a brain surgeon known around the world for his expertise. It was only later in life that he got into politics. He ran for president and ended up serving as the Secretary of the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development. And now he's here and all across the country investing in the next generation of Americans. Quite frankly, Dr. Carson embodies the American dream. Our nation is built upon truths that our founding fathers declared were self-evident. There are some people who want to rewrite history. I'm going to have to ask you what's going on there, Todd. To make America out to be a boogeyman. But as we know, America is a special place and a place of opportunity. Dr. Carson and his team have developed a curriculum that answers one question: why does America matter? Why does America matter? What makes America special? Why does it matter? It's a simple question, but with profound implications, and it shouldn't take a brain surgeon to answer. But I'm sure glad Dr. Carson has taken it upon himself to make sure our children throughout this country know why America matters. So with that, I'd like to introduce Dr. Ben Carson, and he's going to say a few words, and then after that, we'll take some questions. Doctor?
Well, I want to thank Governor Dunleavy for inviting me here. I had a chance to meet him while I was in office in Washington, D.C., and it became very clear that he was somebody who had a great interest in the education of our young people and making sure that they were successful. And a part of what American Cornerstone is about is focusing on children. We look at 4 cornerstone principles, things that made America to a great nation. Number 1, our faith, which taught us how to interact with each other. Our Judeo-Christian values taught you to love your neighbor, not to cancel your neighbor, not to hate your neighbor if they have a different yard sign. And then the cornerstone of liberty, the ability to lead the life that you want to lead, not the life that a bunch of bureaucrats mandate for you to lead. The cornerstone of community, being able to work together despite differences. In the early days of this country, people came from all over the world, and there were little communities of 50 or 100 families from different places. They could barely communicate with each other, and yet they understood the principle of the common good and how to work together for the benefit of the whole society. And then the cornerstone of life, from the womb to the tomb, the quality of life, caring about other people, what a difference it makes. And of course, then there's the Little Patriots program. And the reason that's so important is because the young mind is very, very fertile. And it's the very reason that the Bible says in Proverbs 22:6, train up a child in the way he should go, and when he's old, he'll not depart from it. But people like the Marxist in chief, Vladimir Lenin, understood that too. and he said, "Give me your children to teach for 4 years, and the seed that I sow will never be uprooted." So we need to be every bit as aggressive as those who are trying to change us into something else, to make sure that American values remain there. The Little Patriots program teaches children who we are, what our values are. They teach our history, the good, the bad, and the ugly. But the fact of the matter is, if you're objective, you'll see that there's a lot more good than there is bad and ugly. We have those who seize upon the bad and ugly, and they try to make everything about that. And America is about so much more than that. We need to make sure that our children understand that they understand that we, the American people, are not each other's enemies. And we can't succumb to those who just sow seeds of discord and exclusion in our society. We have been blessed with so much, and we must make sure that our children adopt the can-do attitude that made America great, not the what can you do for me attitude that has been the downfall of so many other nations. So that's the reason that we're here. That's the reason that we created this organization. And that's the reason that we will continue very hard to fight for the soul of our nation.
Wait, wait a second, Doctor. We're going to take a couple questions. You want to stand on your side? Because they'll go back and forth on that. So, sure.
So our first question will be from Ian Stewart with Your Alaska Link. I guess.
Let us know who you're directing to, okay?
This will be for Mr. Carson. What was it that you discussed in the assembly, and what was it you wanted to share with the kids so badly?
Yeah, with the children, I talked about the human brain and what it is capable of, and what each one of us is capable of, and why we need to take some personal responsibility in terms of developing that brain, and also our relationships with each other. I talked about such things as why you should be nice to other people, including members of your own family, and how you take responsibility for doing things, and you can be the initiator. You don't always have to be the recipient.
Next we have Iris Samuels with the Anchorage Daily News.
Thanks. This question is for the governor. I'm wondering, after you vetoed $87 million for public school education here in Alaska, there was a lot of outcry from educators around the state saying that because of that, they'd have to cut teacher positions and special programs. So I'm wondering if you think that Alaska public schools are well positioned to help students fulfill their potential, as Dr. Carson did, without that funding.
Sure. So let me correct something, or let me clarify for the people of Alaska. $30 additional million was put into education last year. $30 additional $1 million was put into education this year. We also ran a bill that would have paid teachers in rural districts $15,000 extra a year. We still have that bill in play. Teachers in districts that were a little smaller and a little more closer to our urban areas would have been paid $10,000 more each. And urban districts, the teachers would have been paid $5,000 more each. That's for a retention and recruitment study for 3 years. So over 3 years, teachers would get more money in their pocket from the state of Alaska than they ever have before. So let's just make sure we clarify that. Again, $30 million last year, $30 million this year. What was vetoed was above and beyond that, because there are many districts that have a fund balance currently, and they have CARES Act money still in their accounting system. And so we are more than happy and willing to have discussions with the legislature as we go into the legislative session on what schools should look like and where that money should go. I think all of those teachers you talk to or reference believe that that money, or most of it, should go in the classroom, and I think most parents and most of the people of Alaska believe that should happen. So that's what we're trying to do with the bill that we have.
All right, our next question is from Steve Kirch with Alaska's News Source.
Yeah, hi, this is for Dr. Carson or Governor Dunleavy. So the Anchorage School District, Mr. Carson, they canceled one of your visits down there. I was just curious if you have any comments about the canceling of that visit and what you think about that.
Well, it's unfortunate that some people have allowed politics to enter the educational arena. And we need to be concentrating right now on how do we empower our children. How do we make sure that they're extremely well educated, particularly as we move into areas of great technical sophistication in our society. Unfortunately, we're always going to have people who have contrary philosophies and who allow ideology to control their actions. But if America is going to continue to be the land of freedom, we have to have people who are courageous, who will stand up for the values and principles that made this to a great nation. Not be deterred by those who have other interests or who allow themselves to be manipulated for political purposes.
And our last question is from Katie Stavik with the Frontiersman.
Hi, this is for Governor Dunleavy. Here in the Matsu School District, we have partnered with a school in the lower 48, a college, in order to gain more teachers, get people excited to become a teacher and come back. Are there any other programs aside from the bonuses you spoke of to get more teachers within the state?
Yeah, we're looking at teacher apprenticeship programs with our new commissioner, Dr. Bishop, who was also the superintendent here, obviously, and in Anchorage. We're looking at any and everything to recruit more teachers, to get teachers certified, get them endorsed, and to keep them here in Alaska. The key is how do you keep them here? I became a teacher in Alaska in 1984. And when I was recruited at that time, there were over 600 openings back then. Alaska's always had an issue with recruitment and retention. This is why we've introduced this bill. We think this bill will be a game changer, and we can study the bill. That's the purpose of doing it for 3 years, to be able to look at that and see if, in fact, that is the issue of money will actually keep teachers in the positions that actually recruit teachers. We think it probably will. And so, apprenticeships, alternative types of certification. In 2001, with myself, with Alaska Housing Finance Corporation and Senator Murkowski, we started teacher housing in rural Alaska to be able to get school districts to be able to build housing to help recruit and retain teachers as well. So we're going to do everything we can to make sure that we can keep our teachers here in Alaska and get quality teachers to stay here. So.
Governor?
Well, I'm going to let Dr. Carson say a few parting words, and then I'll wrap it up.
We're at a crossroads in our country right now in terms of which way we want to go. And our young people are a very important part of that. And young people are very curious and are very impressionable. And that's why they have responsible adults to protect them, to allow them to develop their brains, develop their bodies in an appropriate way without giving them choices that they're not mature enough to make. Most children are having trouble deciding what they want for dinner. You don't want to put big social issues on their shoulders. Those things are to be taken care of by families. Schools are here to really educate children, to give them the tools they need to be successful in society. And there's a difference between what children are taught by their parents in their home environment and what the school is responsible for. And we need to get back to that. There was a time in our country where our school systems were admired worldwide. When Alexis de Tocqueville came to America in 1831 to investigate, because the Europeans were fascinated by how a nation barely 50 years old was able to compete with them on virtually everything. One of the things that impressed them was our school systems and the fact that he could find a woodsman and the guy could read. The guy could tell him about the Declaration of Independence. That knowledge is so important because people who are knowledgeable are very difficult to deceive.
Thank you, Dr. Carson. So just to sum it up, Dr. Carson is a model for many and an inconvenient truth for some. And what do I mean by that? He's a reminder that America is a great place, that you can achieve beyond your wildest dreams or others' expectations truly great things. He's a neurosurgeon. He separated conjoined twins at the skull. He just told the students this morning the story about a young lady who had epilepsy, and they had to remove half of the brain of that individual to help them. Countless examples of where Dr. Carson has impacted and changed the lives of many, many people. But again, he's a model for many that believe in America, that believe this is a country you can come to or be born into, and then work your way up to some absolutely great things and an incredible life. And for others, unfortunately in this time and day and age, he's an inconvenient truth. Why? Obviously, Dr. Carson is his profile, his background would lead many to believe that he shouldn't be standing here today, saying the things he's saying today. But the fact of the matter is, he believes in the American dream. I believe in the American dream, and the vast majority of Americans and Alaskans believe in the American dream. And he's going to continue to speak the truth. I'll continue to speak the truth, and many of us will continue to speak the truth. But again, I think this is a real honor for Alaska to have a man of his stature, his background, his education, his accomplishments here in the state of Alaska. And we're hoping that you come back again and again partake in what we do up here in Alaska. I think we got the greatest state, the greatest country in the face of the earth. And Dr. Carson is a perfect example of that. So with that, I want to thank everyone. And I want to thank Iditarod School and the Mat-Su School District for hosting Dr. Carson. It is the beginning of school for the kids. We were standing at the door. They were coming in. There were smiles. They were happy. A couple of them that know quite that summer was over, but that'll sink in. But nonetheless, and I want to thank the school board members. I want to thank the superintendent, the principals, the staff, the parents, everyone that makes a difference in the lives of these kids. So with that, we're going to conclude this. But once again, thank you very much, everybody.